All right, Mr. Lowrie and Mr. Josh Goins, we, in theory, like I say every show that I do, should be live. We'll start checking Facebook notifications and all that. Just want to remind everybody as we go live, a couple of rules. We don't really moderate people or ban people unless you're an obvious troll or if you use really vulgar language. Look, we're all adults. We don't care if you cuss a little bit. Just remember, sometimes teenagers and kids watch this, and so let's keep it relatively clean. We appreciate all the comments. Even if you disagree with anything that any of us said, we want to hear the feedback. Just remember, those comments are live, no takebacks, and you may, from time to time, get a little pushback from us in the commentary or whatever. With all that said, I will turn this over to Mr. Duke Lowrie, who is in Illinois, and Mr. Josh Goins, who is, I think he's still in Louisiana right now. So you boys have at it. Mr. Lowrie.
Well, as you said, I am up here and out in Illinois with a bunch of these folks up here. I was invited to come up and see firsthand the duck slaughter that was taking place here. Yeah, you see these guys smiling, and I was like, well, hey, you know what? If we're going to get into a duck slaughter, I'm in. I'm coming. I'm on my way. And so me and Alex, we hopped in the truck. We got up here and we made a hunt. First thing this morning, Vince was kind enough to take us out on Carlyle Lake, and we'll kind of tell you all about that hunt here in a little bit. But the main thing I think we were going to try to talk about on this show was perspectives on the season so far, and from what we see in Louisiana and what's being seen up in this region of the world. And if y'all want to introduce yourselves and kind of go forward and who you represent.
Well, I'm Vince Stiman. I'm from Carlyle, Illinois, and I represent the Carlyle Lake Waterfowlers Association here in Carlyle.
And I'm Scott Hushley. I live down in Smithton, Illinois, and I am the representative for the Mississippi Valley Duck Hunters Club of Illinois.
Yeah, so we got the pleasure, Josh and I, and a lot of the other Flyway Federation folks. We came up, visited with all of you guys, and we talked shop ducks, and we all found a lot of common ground, which was to me personally, it was surprising as to how much actually being a Louisiana boy that I had in common with y'all, because I really didn't see that. I didn't realize that until I got to talking to you, and it's kind of the same things that we see in the South are some of the same things that you see, and the way we feel is the same way you feel. And so it's really come full circle. Josh, you got anything before we kind of jump into this?
No, let's jump into it. I could just tell you, I have hunted twice. I had two pretty good hunts. They were average, but I was hunting an unbelievable place. And wasn't that we saw a lot of ducks. It was that the ducks that were there were coming straight to us. So that's how my seasons went so far. But let's get into the show, and then throughout the show I'll tell y'all what I've heard from different areas of the state, and then we'll kind of compare it to what you guys are seeing up in Illinois and y'all's different areas.
Well, these guys could speak more to what they're seeing up here, but Louisiana, that I know firsthand. I mean, and obviously from my perspective, it looks like we're killing the hell out of the teal. And I got to tell you, I worry for the teal population. And, I've seen these reports, and these guys were regurgitating back to me how Louisiana has all the ducks. I mean, we had this survey that come out, and even Ducks Unlimited is running ads talking about how Louisiana's on fire and all that. And I'm seeing these stringers of teal, and I'm thinking, man, everybody's having a good opening day of teal season. And
yeah, Duke, what was that? What was that reason behind Ducks Unlimited's post? I think it had something to do with weather. pushing all these ducks down, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like snowmageddon in Louisiana, and my wife was getting me. She's like, "Look, I mean, I'm burning up. It's 80 something plus degrees outside." And
It's
I mean,
matter of fact, I think it's hot enough that the Missouri deer hunters just made it hit all these national news today that they're all saying the warm weather is causing them not to have good deer season. So now they want to be able to bait deer. And it was so funny because one of my friends out of Oklahoma comes on and he's like arguing with them in the comments against the deer hunters now. And he's a duck hunter. And he's like, so you're telling me y'all can feed all these ducks this flooded corn and bait them up. So now you want to be able to bait your deer. He was like, what can y'all kill without corn? I just want to know this. And like, dude, it turned into World War III on there, bro. It was hilarious.
well, you know, some people need those training wheels, and they can't ever take them off. I mean, I get it. I understand Missouri's one of those places, but hey, I mean, I just want to go back to the point. I mean, do we have to have cold weather to have ducks or not? Apparently, now we don't have to have cold weather. Louisiana's got them all.
Well, the youth season for our zone, South Central, that was a weekend of the weather just turned cold, high winds. The kids had a pretty phenomenal shoot on that weekend. And everybody that I talked to seen a lot of migrating birds on them 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, and quite a few they couldn't hunt on Monday, obviously, but the guys I know were working on blinds or doing whatever,
Right.
still had birds moving. 3 days of birds moving south.
Right.
And but since then, it got back warm.
Well, where'd they go?
Yeah, is that the
But
weekend
did
they all hit
did they
Louisiana?
reverse? You know, that's the thing.
Yeah, or is that the weekend they all hit Louisiana?
Well, then they ought to be up here.
They should be.
Well, Vince,
And a report of
let's talk about today then.
Well, we ate really well. Let's just say that.
Vince cooks the best pizza in a duck blind I've ever had.
We seen a handful of ducks in the morning. They come out of one of the few areas that we have some corn, and there was very few ducks come out of there. I'm gonna guess somewhere around 100 of them come out of that flooded corn, and they all come out of that flooded corn and went out in the stumps, and they sat out there in them stumps all day and laughed at us. So
now you can't kill ducks unless you hunt in flooded corn, I hear.
well, that's what someone on Facebook says, that I only hunt flooded corn. So
yeah, so and I wanted to clarify that because it was a big joke, but we weren't hunting flooded corn. You know, we're literally hunting in Carlyle Lake. And what he tells me when we get out here, we're seeing all these birds right at daylight, you know, and they're trading from one specific place. It's obvious they're coming from some place, you know. And I jokingly said, yeah, must be corn over. He says, yeah, as a matter of fact, it is. It's like, well, what are they doing? He's like, well, it's daylight now. They're getting out of there. They got to go to where it's safe. They know that people are going to shoot them over there. And they were going out, like you said, in the middle of the lake and loading up. So I seen what they see firsthand, that basically the birds are going in there at night, nocturnal, feeding at night. And then when it's shooting hours, they're trading on out of there. You know.
And Josh, ironically enough,
I got a question.
One of the fellows.
Yeah. So me and you have talked, and I want to get both of y'all's perspective on this. So opening weekend of Illinois was what, last weekend, correct? Or was it the weekend before?
This past weekend, right?
Okay.
No, it was this past weekend here.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't that great of hunting then, from what I've heard from you. And there wasn't a whole lot of shots being fired. So we've all been told, oh, it's pressure, it's pressure, it's pressure. That's the other reason. And are the birds going nocturnal because of the pressure, or are the birds going nocturnal because of the food? In y'all's opinion?
Well, I mean, So there was a decent amount of shooting in areas on that. It's a large area, so you got the walk-in area, and that's where the ducks really kind of congregate up there. And the people that hunted up there, they had some good shoots, but there were some guys that didn't have good shoots. Same on the lake. There wasn't many people on the lake. We're in a drought year, so water's a little scarce right now. Duke's seen it firsthand today. But it's weird because ducks are using areas they don't normally use. But in my opinion, after seeing what we seen today, them ducks come out of that corn this morning and went out in the middle of the lake where you can't hunt them, and they sat there all day until we left at 1:30 this afternoon and come through there in the boat and run them all up. So.
Yeah, and
That's pretty much what I've
it
been
struck
told.
me that yeah, that's the pattern we hear from different places, and it's the same pattern that you hear from the refuge type deal. And I mean, it's the same description of what, Jeff Foles has described in the past, for years. And I know that I've seen it in some of our places down in Louisiana, that same pattern. But yet we're not supposed to believe our eyes. We're supposed to believe that we need cold weather. Yet, for some reason, it's 80 degrees in Louisiana, and we're supposed to have more ducks than anybody.
Right.
I got to tell you, my feelings these days is that I don't know what to believe. I don't know that there's any of the statistics or numbers coming out from anywhere that I have faith in. And just like our reported numbers in Louisiana, these guys were given statistics, or who reported those numbers, or that y'all were telling me about?
The one I seen was from the DNR flyover. So then that was 53,000 ducks in southern Illinois. And that's from Union County, way down at the tip of southern Illinois, all the way up to Springfield and east and west. So all the refuges that they fly. Carlyle and Union County had the highest numbers.
I think that count I think they start up there at Vandalia
and worked their way
and
down.
they worked their way south, and then
and that was on the 15th is when that was. And then Missouri has their counts, and southern Missouri in the Bootheel had the highest number out of the whole state.
Yeah. Now, Carlyle of that was specifically
around 23,000.
23.
It's actually like 28,000
or 28.
Yeah, on that, I think the 17th they performed that survey.
Yeah, 15th, 17th, it was around there. Carlyle had the highest, and it wasn't with the mallards. The percentages were all your other puddle ducks. It wasn't. Mallards was pretty low.
Well, we didn't see 28,000 worth of birds
Right.
on Carlyle. They weren't not there. But were they there? Or were they off somewhere feeding, but they sure didn't come back to the lake to rest?
I think they go in that rest area for the most part up there. And we drove around there after our hunt, and I took you and showed you the areas where the pins are at. We really didn't see any ducks up there,
So I don't believe.
Are they flying these surveys at night? Like, we've talked about that before. Like, I mean, if the birds are nocturnal, maybe they start doing the surveys at night.
Now, I will be next Wednesday. I will be hunting just north of the lake on a private farm that is completely flooded corn, and he won't. Our Wednesday will be the first time he's hunted there.
Gotcha.
And, so we'll see how well that goes.
Yeah, that's probably where the 28,000 are.
Yeah, yeah, he's in between Carlyle and Kex Marsh, or the old Kex Marsh.
Right.
So we'll see how that pans out next Wednesday on that hunt.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear that. Because
what you see at Carlyle, Vince, affects him and the the people that own what used to be Tex Marsh, that whole area is affected by what that number reflects.
Well, from what I've seen today, the drought has an effect on that whole area up there, unless those guys. So that Kex Marsh has been split apart, and there's a couple different owners up there, and an area that used to be pumped full of water every year.
Well, it was part of the
There's
count.
no water up there in that area right
No.
now. So
Yeah, the area of land that Vince showed me today that, historically was planted, unharvested crops, to attract waterfowl there. It was a pretty significant area, and they really didn't have the area that they normally have. That may or may not be a part of the issue is, and it's warm up here. It's not cold, but they are in drought conditions, just like we are down in Louisiana. I mean, maybe this front's going to change things. Everything will get wet, and we'll have some water. But again, to the point of having waterfowl in Louisiana, when we've had drought conditions in Louisiana, that's again, we don't have many birds, but yet supposedly we have all these birds, and it's hot. So I don't understand it.
well, it's not just here either. My son's up in North Dakota waterfowl hunting right now, and they've covered over 1,000 miles up there, and in the past 4 days they've only shot 4 mallard drakes up there. Now they've shot a bunch of snow geese and cacklers and handful of honkers up there, but he's telling me they're not seeing many. He said they'll bump some ducks off of a pothole up there, and he says you're looking at about 30-40 birds. He says there's been a couple where there's 2,000-3,000, but those are the spots the outfitters have locked down, and you can't get access to hunt it.
I told you whenever I drove up here, driving all the way up, from Bossier up, kind of along the Mississippi through Arkansas and all of that. Historically, when I've made that trip before during this time of the year, you almost always would see large flocks of snow geese. I mean, just see. I did not see the first goose until I got in the blind with you this morning.
Yeah.
I didn't see normally, and I would guess that on the fields that I saw and drove by, just driving down the road. I mean, it's unscientific, but maybe 100 birds at best. At best,
Right.
and never been like that from my viewpoint.
Yeah.
No, and I talked with Scotty Bryan on the way up here. Oh, all right. So I talked with Scotty Bryan on the way up here, and he's down there in southeast Missouri at their lease right there just north of Big Lake, Arkansas. And he's telling me there's a pile of ducks down there. So, and I've heard that on account that they're claiming something like 700,000 ducks down there in the Bootheel, Missouri.
Well, maybe that all of the birds are being confined, due to what we think is the cause of them being confined. I mean, I think we can safely say that if the number of ducks in Louisiana is accurate, weather is not the primary factor.
No.
I mean, I think we can go ahead and dispose of that one. I don't know. You were talking earlier about you had heard some positive reports from out west. Didn't you? Wasn't you saying that earlier?
My cousin was in South Dakota 2 weeks ago, and where they hunt is right along the Missouri River. And he said that whether they were shooting, how well they were doing, but there was several boats on the river because there's 3 boat ramps all right there by his place that he stays. And they all morning here in barrages of shooting. And that's South Dakota.
Yeah, and you guys were in Nebraska. Y'all packed it in and came in early.
Yeah, we
had up there
tucked our tails and headed south.
And, you guys would say you work. Josh?
All right, so everybody, just so you know, Duke and them are a little bandwidth challenged up there in Illinois, out in the middle of nowhere. So just give them a second here to hopefully catch back up with us. Paging Mr. Lowry, you were almost frozen, and y'all just told us it wasn't that cold up there in Illinois.
Okay, well,
Let's see. Y'all are slowly but surely kind of coming back. We'll give it a second and see if it catches up. I mean, they're wearing hoodies and they're about frozen on the screen, but they told us it wasn't cold up there. All right. So while we're waiting on them to come back, Josh, why don't you ad lib a little bit and kind of give us some reports that you've heard about?
Yeah, so I've talked to a lot of guys, and I'm talking about from every portion of the state, from Southwest, Southeast, South Central, Central Louisiana, on up, and they're all telling me what they're seeing, and they're like, man, it's a little bit more than last year. I had one guy tell me, man, we actually had a pretty good bit of ducks in this one area. And he called me, and he's a guide, and I trust this dude, and he knows what he's talking about. And I'm like, okay, so let's see how it goes after that first day. And sure enough, season opener, talked to him that second day, and he's like, man, it was a whole lot different today. And it seems like everyone that I've talked to, that opener, there was a bunch of teal. Like all the teal that we should have had during teal season, they showed up for big duck. And next thing you know, they're not there. It's almost as if we killed them all off, or they fully, started moving out or started moving south.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to ask Duke and the guys, and maybe they'll be back here in just a few minutes. I think they're trying to connect in now. But one of the things that I wanted to ask them was, compared to, let's just say, the same basic time last year and year before last, how does the number of ducks that they're seeing or not seeing compare, this year and what they've experienced the last couple of days to years prior? Because, just anecdotally, me remembering back, we've had some relatively warm temperatures in the past couple of years. We did have that one cold snap that moved through, but it didn't last but just a couple of days. So looks like we got Duke and them back. So let's see if we've got a little bit of audio. And Duke, can you hear us?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear. Sounds like there's no delay. What about on us?
Yeah, sounds good. So one of the questions I have was, how does what y'all are experiencing the last couple of days up there in Illinois, how does that compare to years prior in, let's just say, the last couple of years? Because it's been a relatively warm fall. At least I know it has in Louisiana. Now, I'm not sure about Illinois. But how does that compare, what y'all are experiencing the last few days, to, let's say, last year and year before last?
I see no difference, except for the last 2 weeks of January. And when I'm sitting in a pit goose hunting, we got ducks all over us. But everywhere but the season's closed then. Now we're going into this split season, suppose, that they're going to do, possibly being open till the end of January. You might get some shooting there towards the end, now that it's going to be open while you're still able to goose hunt. But up until then, I mean, I really haven't seen a difference through the normal 60-day season the last, I'm going to say, 5 years, actually.
Interesting.
Well,
Vince, you hunt Carlyle, I hunt different areas.
Here's what I'm going to tell you is, and I'm going to take this to my grave with me. I don't think we have the ducks that they claim that we have. If we had the amount of ducks that they claim we have, we'd be seeing a lot more ducks. I'm at the point, take me back to the late 80s when we could only shoot 3. Because back then we seen ducks everywhere. Now,
Well,
there's-
I'm gonna take it back further because I'm a little older. Take it back to the 70s, and we had a point system, and the canvasbacks, the black duck, were 100 points.
Yeah.
Mallard hen 75. You could up that a little bit. You know, you're going to see a lot of people start whining and crying if you went to a point system. But if you really want to try to up the,
you see a
up
lot
the
of guide
population.
services. You see a lot of guide services start shutting their doors because they can't afford to do this crap that they're doing. And Duke, one thing you were right earlier whenever you said, "Man, I don't know what I can trust anymore. These numbers. I can tell you one damn thing that you can trust is the commercialization of this sport. That it every time me and Vince was talking about it the other day. Every time that I open up my phone, in which I know the algorithms read what you're looking at, whatever, but it's not just that. It's a new some new kids done come out with a new hat brand or a new call, or I'm all about capitalism, but good God, man. And half
Well,
of them,
Josh,
I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but damn.
well, Josh, and I'm not bashing Ducks Unlimited, but and this is my opinion only, in the last 15 years, at least, Ducks Unlimited comes out in their magazines, always preaching these populations that the numbers look great, blah, blah, blah. And all that is to spend money for Ducks Unlimited and to go out and make these people spend money on equipment because they know that the numbers ain't where they are. So they're going to fabricate that in order to keep this sport going the way they want. And it's going to drive them to these outfitters, where the outfitters are actually the ones holding the ducks. Habitat Flats being one of them.
I agree with you. I think that you're correct, and you know, I've always said a meteorologist is one of the only people that can get his job wrong all the time and still have a job. But now I'm starting to think that a lot of the Ducks Unlimited employees are right there in the same group because and United States Fish and Wildlife Service agents, like, how can you get these numbers that far off? I mean, I know that the numbers are low, but no one is saying anything about it. No one is screaming off the rooftop saying that we have a duck population issue in the breeding grounds, but yet the numbers right now are lower than the numbers for the reason that Ducks Unlimited even was founded.
Well, Josh, why would it does, and why would the Fish and Wildlife Service set a number for pintails as 3 to be harvested when the population is so low?
Yeah, 50%.
So why are
low?
Yes, why are they doing that?
You know,
I think it's to pull pressure off of mallards.
You know, y'all were saying something just a minute ago, and it clicked in my head, and I was thinking back to a conversation that Vince and I was having this morning, and we were talking about it. You know, and you were telling me about these new fancy dancy waders that were $800 a pair of waders. I would never spend $800 on a pair of waders, and I would contend the majority of people that buy duck stamps or a federal duck stamp, and they're not going to buy $800 pair of waders. But if that's the future of waterfowl hunting, that a kid or somebody coming into the sport has to be able to buy an $800 pair of waders to participate, we're committing suicide in the sport of waterfowl hunting. And additionally, I think back to the first time I met you guys, and y'all posed a question to our group, and you said, how are you going to get youth back to start waterfowl hunting again? And we were talking about this morning, why would I dare bring a kid out to sit in a blind to where he's going to be miserable in the blind, sitting on his phone, and he's not going to get any enjoyment of shooting a duck or seeing ducks or having anything, he's not going to want to come back and do it.
Okay,
He's not.
that's a good point, Duke. I've been doing youth hunts, me personally, for 15, 17 years now. And it started out as a waterfowl hunt. And I hunted in several clubs on the Missouri side of Alton here. And we got to that point, sitting out in the blind, and I had to entertain these kids because we had nothing to shoot. And so, me working at Nilo Farms for Winchester, I switched it to a pheasant hunt to engage these kids, make them more want to come back and want to do this. And so they get to work behind the dogs. They get to see how the guides work. We do some trap shooting to learn how to swing the gun right. And every year these kids want to come back. They beg me to come back and do these pheasants because it just wasn't working for the waterfowl. We weren't seeing them. And there was times where it was 80 degrees and the kids are in shorts in the blind. So I had to come up with another way. I had to reinvent the wheel again to get these kids involved in the outdoors. And it was through changing it to a pheasant hunt. So at least they were seeing them. They may not shoot the pheasants, but they're getting to see what the dogs do. They get to see what the pheasants get up in front of them. A lot of them shoot their first bird ever, and there's ecstatic.
See, and that is a bright spot, of thinking out of the box, figuring out a way how to get youth involved, and where I was going with that is that the commercialization of waterfowl hunting is killing the future.
Absolutely.
It is killing the future. Yeah. And all of these guys that are benefiting off of the commercialization, do you think they even realize what they're doing?
No.
Do you think they realize?
No, because they got the money.
They realize it, but they don't care because of money. End of story.
Right? Yeah, they have the money to do that and take that kid to one of these highfalutin clubs. And that's what that kid then is only going to know because he's not going to know public hunting.
But we're talking about a public hunter. And a public hunter, no way, shape, or form can he afford to take himself and his youth to somewhere like Habitat Flats and afford to do anything more than a 1 day, 2 day hunt. Well, I myself, I couldn't afford to spend $3-4 grand for me and my son to go shoot 12 ducks if you get to shoot 12 ducks.
And that's where the people with the high dollar
I
are
agree.
Teaching their kids. That's what they're going to learn because they're not going to, if they took them to the public hunting, they're going to lose interest, just like you said.
They're going to do what he said. They're going to be sitting on
the phones. Yeah. And that's the purpose for me doing these youth hunts for 17 years is to get the kids off of these phones and computers and to get the parents engaged with them as well. Hey, there's more to outdoors than these phones and computers.
Yeah, no doubt. And I don't know. I wish all of those, big dollar, millionaires that are having the enjoyment of killing all of these birds on this unharvested ag. I just wish they had an ounce of, I'm going to say morality in them, that they would take a step back, look at what the cause and effect of what they're doing is, and realize that they're destroying it. You and I had the comment that you hunting out there on that lake, that is probably something that's going to be dead gone in the not near future unless we make a change.
Yes.
Because just finding a place, public hunting, to just go without flooded unharvested ag, it's not going to happen. It's going to be a thing of the past. You learned it. You went and did it with your daddy. I came up the same way, and my son's not going to go do it.
Right.
He's lost to that. I think that's the future if we don't change.
Well, and when you have a state that don't want to spend any money on public hunting, that doesn't help the situation either.
Louisiana's been in the same boat. Josh, I can't remember the number. You may can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when went to the Louisiana legislature and testified. I think it was, we had $32 million backlog on general maintenance on just our WMAs in Louisiana. Wasn't that close? 32 million.
I
maybe a drop
that's
in the bucket to Illinois.
I think that was just for like a certain amount of years, Duke. I think I forget what they said the total is over the long term, but I think you're being generous. I think 32 million was a small amount. I think it's much larger.
Yeah, and I see the same thing with, just the little bit of a perspective I've gotten on their areas that they have issues as well with, their state government maintaining their areas. And in fact, when these guys are all stepping up to the plate to do work, the state is getting in between them and the work. These guys could eat the state employees' lunch on completing a lot of these needed tasks, and their state's fighting them, and it's crazy to me.
Well, I get they have a process how they want us to volunteer and sign up, and they want us to have background checks, but I think there's a way for them to make that process a little quicker so we can get through the red tape and volunteer when needed. And there's a lot of volunteers needed because I don't know why the state's so broke. I have a good idea, but we're not going to get into that. But we are broke here in Illinois when it comes to spending money on this very thing.
I think, and again, that's another common, thread between, you wouldn't think that Illinois and Louisiana would have so many commonalities, but I think that's one of the things that brings us together is that we do have some of these common problems. And I don't think it's unique to just Illinois and Louisiana. I think that there's other states that have this same problem. Maybe, y'all and us, we're just a little bit more organized and outspoken, and it's enabled us to all come together. And I think that there's other people, like-minded people, that feel and see the same things that we're seeing that, should reach out to these guys, reach out to their organization, reach out to Flyway, get involved because, and I'm saying this, I'm kind of speaking as a public land hunter, the more of us in an organized, cohesive, combined voice talking about these issues of the lack of funding, the lack of maintenance is going to have a bigger impact in the long run, with us finding all common ground and working together. I mean, don't y'all agree?
No, I agree.
Yep, I agree 100%.
Let me pose a question to y'all that occurred to me that it's related, of course, to the fishing side of things too. But I know not just in fishing and not just in duck hunting, but deer hunting, squirrel hunting, hunting in general. Of course, the numbers of hunters, new hunters, is just falling off the cliff. And so, what do you think we need to do? And what do the Illinois guys think we need to do? And Josh, chime in too. What do we need to do to turn that around? I mean, because the way it's going now, in the next 50 years, there's not going to be very many hunters left. The numbers are already pathetic. We have an advantage in fishing that at least every now and then the states build a new lake here and there. And so we can produce new areas to fish. But look, if I want to go duck hunting around Bossier, where am I going to go? Out to Bodcaw?
Yeah.
There ain't no ducks at Bodcaw anymore. Not to speak of. I mean, you can go out there and you can't take a step and not step on an acorn that I remember as a kid shooting greenheads, killing my limits out there. And they were in there to eat the acorns. But mallards apparently don't eat acorns anymore. Who knew that genetics would change over the course of 10 to 15 to 20 years? Anyway, I know that didn't answer your question. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, to answer Rex's question, you have to make the sport, and it goes down to any hunting, whether it be deer hunting, duck hunting, pheasant hunting, squirrel hunting. You got to take them out there, and you got to see what you're after. And sometimes those kids don't have to kill anything, but they want to shoot that gun, I promise. And if they kill some, well, that's a bonus, And as I have a 9-year-old I take hunting with me all the time, and we pass up multiple shots on ducks where we could probably have close to our limit, but I'm passing on those ducks because I'm trying to get them ducks right. in front of that boat at 25 yards for this 9-year-old to shoot at. And I think a lot of these adults go out there and they're not doing that. They're not making that effort. They're out there, they're shooting them ducks at 40, 50, 60 yards high, and they throw that duck in front of that kid. Well, let me tell you, that 9-year-old kid knows whether they killed that duck or not. You're not
Yeah.
going to fool their eyes.
Nope. And yeah, I don't know. It's
They have to have opportunity, and if we don't provide these young ones with opportunity, we're not going to be able to pass this on to them because they're not going to keep doing it.
The biggest way to give opportunity back to the kids is fair chase. Duke, wouldn't you agree?
100%.
Absolutely.
Fair chase back into the flyways from East Coast to West Coast, from Canada to Mexico. If we can get fair chase put back into these flyways, it will open up a whole lot more opportunities to everyone that's hunting in every flyway, because the ducks will be moving more naturally. And Jeff Foles has said it to me, I don't know how many times on the phone with me and him talking. And he says, dude, 100% we have to get away from all the unharvested agricultural food. He said, if they want to do natural stuff and moist soils, great. But we have to get away from people being able to concentrate and hoard these birds to shoot them in the face. He said, no, I'm guilty of it as well. He said, I did it. He said, but I saw where it was going and I changed. And he said, a lot of these people have to realize they are ruining this sport that I love so much. And if we can get fair chase back into the flyways, I think it's going to open up a lot of opportunities, because here in Louisiana, we have a ton of public lands to hunt, Baikal being one of them. But if you don't have birds there, we got a problem. I remember my very first duck hunt. I was so excited, and I was in this pit in the marsh with my uncle, and the birds were coming by, and you could hear them just sound like little jets. And I'm so excited. I went to stand up, and my uncle grabs me and jerks me back down to the pit. He's like, boy, they're going to take your head off. And once it got daylight, that's what hooked me. It was thousands of green-winged teal buzzing the marsh right over the grass. And I didn't even have to kill nothing. It was just a simple fact of seeing all those ducks. And like I told you earlier, yeah, we had a blind full of guys that was shooting 40 and 50-yard shots the other day. Okay. But we weren't seeing the ducks. It wasn't like the skies were full and seeing big high flying groups like, years past. It was the few small groups that was coming through, was coming either to us into our decoys, or it was divers. They was coming by at 100 mile an hour. And we was able to actually harvest some, but we're not seeing the big numbers.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of us that are working hard to try to change, this path that we're on, which is a path to destruction, and we're either going to prevail or not. And if we don't prevail, then God help the ducks.
It's going to be a rich man's sport.
Yep.
well, you may agree, you may not. I contribute some of our problems with waterfowl through Illinois down through Missouri, at least the eastern part of Missouri. After that 93 flood, to me, a lot of them birds were pushed to the western part of Missouri and into Kansas, Oklahoma. Right after that 93 flood, a couple of our club members at the Mississippi Flyway Duck Hunters, they start going to Tulsa, not knowing anything. They just heard there was birds there. And they went to a lake south of Tulsa. The game warden says, you're in the wrong lake. Go to this one. They went there, and then they've been going there now for almost 20 some years.
Wow.
And the wildlife area, Four Rivers, just I believe north of Kansas City. There was times in these past 5 years where that refuge was holding more ducks in the whole state of Illinois. And that's just my opinion. Since '93,
well,
it has changed the flyway.
And to that point, if people think that, well, it's fine if they don't migrate through my state anymore, I'll just go to the state wherever they are.
And I'm guilty of it. I've been going to Oklahoma in the last 6 years.
Yeah, but
I'm more goose hunting than duck hunting.
But the thing is that if you're one of those people and you're out there and you think that that's going to be the solution, and you may have a little extra, money that you can spend and you can go do those hunts regular, good for you. I'm not knocking you for that. That's great. I would go too if I was in that position. But the thing is we're seeing it every single year. And I talked to someone of influence out of a state out west. I'm not going to say which state, that's with their game commission with that particular state, and talking about the quantity of complaints that they're getting from non-residents coming to their state, and that they have internal deliberations about limiting non-residents from being able to come to that state and the quantity of hunting.
Right.
That thing is going to continue to grow. And I think it's going to grow to a point to where one of these states is going to take a really aggressive position here in the near future. And there will be a lawsuit the moment that happens. That's coming. It's just a matter of which state is going to be the one that jumps out there on that limb and gets sawed out underneath it.
Why do you think, and this is just pointing something out that was just released within the past 2 weeks. So we all see the videos White Oaks puts out. Me and Vince talk about it all the time. We comment on some of them. They get butt hurt because we hurt their feelings or whatever. But they just now bought a location in Oklahoma. So now we're about to have another White Oaks in the Central Flyway. And that's what all these Oklahoma guys are calling me about. And they're all pissed off. And because the thing is they also see that these states are about to start limiting out-of-state hunters. So what are these rich guys going to do? They're just going to go into that state and buy a huge piece of property. They're already setting up the stage for it right now.
Yeah. So just that's all I'm saying is to the people that think that your option out of all of this is that you're just going to continue to travel to one of these other states. You need to know that the time is limited on that one too. I mean,
these states are already making a valid attempt to try and keep out-of-state people limited to certain days that they can hunt. Look at what Kansas did.
Right. So, to me, the overall solution, I mean, I'm biased. It's what I believe, but I think the overall solution is, again, full circle, fair chase. Let's let the birds naturally migrate. If they come to Illinois and they say, you know what, we love it here so much, we're not going to leave, then so be it. That's what happens. But if we get an 80-degree cold front and they decide to go to Louisiana suddenly, then great.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I think we've about beat it to a pulp tonight. And I appreciate the invite up here and, the tour and showing me exactly what y'all are seeing and how these birds are nocturnal and coming out, rafting up into the safe zone during the day and then returning back to the feeding areas at night, and seen it in other places.
We've seen them coming out of that refuge this evening, headed back to wherever they're going to feed. But, I think it was about 3:00 we were there, and they were coming out pretty heavy. So,
yeah,
they know the gig. And I think personally, it's the same ducks that we get year after year because they get here and they know
where to go and what to do.
They know the program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have trained them well.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Well, anyway,
Yeah. So if you don't have too much more to talk about, I want to remind everybody that Facebook deletes live videos after 30 days. So if you're following us on Facebook, you may want to reach out and go to the YouTube channel, because all of the videos are there on YouTube and they stay on YouTube. YouTube doesn't delete them, unlike Facebook. We appreciate everybody's comments. And Duke, I appreciate you checking in from the great state of Illinois up there with our guests. And they've, I'm sure, been a gracious host to you as you attempt to kill some ducks or swat mosquitoes.
hadn't been no mosquitoes, but I did let a few out of the vehicle when I got here.
There you go. All right, Josh, you got anything else you want to add to it?
No, man, y'all have fun. I think y'all got a couple more hunts planned up there. I wanted to come, but there was no way I could break away this year. So y'all have fun, man.
All right, Mr. Lowrie. Well, I'll give it to you and pitch it back to you to take us out of here. So whenever you're ready, I mean, y'all can keep talking if you want, but whenever you're ready, we'll head out.
Well, good night, everybody in Louisiana and Illinois. And y'all, I hope y'all have a good hunt. Be safe out there. And, let's pray for more ducks.
Say goodbye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
So, all right. See y'all later. See you later, Josh.
See you guys.